Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday night chat. We have Rosie O'Kelly and Rick is your sixth covered here tonight. There may be some other people pop in. Hello, everybody. Probably not, but just in case, there are some other invites out there. But anyway, I'll let Rick and Rosie do an intro. We'll have Rick there. Rosie, go ahead and do an intro.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to be here, and happy end of August, everybody. And thanks again. Love being on the Tuesday night chats. Rosie O'Kelly channel. A lot of stuff going on. As some of you know, I had sold the yellow submarine, the Class A 74 GMC. I now have just bought a 88 Coachman camper van. You may enjoy following that, along with doing a lot of metal detecting lately, and you might enjoy that. And just getting this rig up to snuff through California inspections and smogging. It'll be interesting, electrical issues, so you may enjoy that. And the Rosie Murphy channel has the weekly, or at least every other week, eco investment updates, so you may pick up something of value on that every week or two. So thank you, TR, and good to see you, Rick.
Thanks, Rosie.
Rick, would you like to do an intro?
Sure, I'll do a quick one. Thanks again, guys, for showing up and supporting the channel. And obviously, all you guys out in the comments section, love seeing you out there as well. But it should be a fun night. I probably won't stay too late because I got to be on an airplane in a few hours. So, but I'm gonna be hanging out for a while.
Well, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it, Rick. Well, since we got Rosie here tonight, would you like to do your financial kind of forecast for us?
Sure. I missed you all last Tuesday. I was up in Reno getting ready to go pick up the camper van up there, so I missed last Tuesday's chats. I'm glad to be back. You know, I didn't miss a lot when it comes to the economic news that's going on right now. It's very strange, the financial markets, and my topic for last Sunday's Rosie Murphy sort of economic exploration, it was called, "Are we on the verge of disaster here?" And you know, as we go along month after month, and we have interest rates still very low in the world and not a lot going on, two things happen, and this is going to seem ridiculously stupid to you guys. Either you start to pick up speed and get the economy moving forward again, or you just go into a virtual tailspin where, well, financial incentives that have seemed to have worked since the 1930s don't work anymore. In other words, there's no ammunition left in the magazine of the Federal Reserve, and we've talked about that for a long time. You know, half the people in the market think that we're going to accelerate now and take off in the economy. And Janet Yellen, they had their big meeting out west, their big yearly shindig out west, where they have the economic summit, and of course she was the guest speaker, as the Federal Reserve chairwoman or chairman usually is, and she was talking about it. You know, the evidence is maybe starting to mount that an interest rate increase would be good. And then out of the blue, later in the week, you get news that automobile defaults are skyrocketing right now and climbing like crazy. So this Fed just can't seem to get a handle on what the realities of the economy are, and we've talked about this before, because they follow very skewed statistics. And for example, if enough people drop out of the labor force, the unemployment rate appears to go down on a monthly basis. And we have had that case of a shrinking labor force for quite a few years here, and consequently an unemployment rate that seems to go better. Now, in my particular area, and I don't know about your guys, and I'll ask Rick and TR to weigh on this, every low end, and I don't mean low end in the sense that these aren't these aren't jobs that have dignity and things. But I'm talking about the lower, hourly stuff that still may pay well. Lowe's, Home Depot, the Walmarts of the world, the fast food places. Almost every place I go to has a help wanted sign out front of it. And well, one of the reasons is we seem to have shrunk our base of workers here. You don't see as many young people willing to enter the workforce. So given all of these distortions that are occurring in the economy now, the Fed is actually on the bridge of a gigantic ocean liner, and it's wearing a blindfold. It's got no idea what's going on, and all it can do is just hear people yakking and talking from each side. Step on the gas. No, step on the brake. I'm convinced they have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they don't have a way out of this dilemma to really get things going. Draghi, the EU person, the equivalent over there for the European Economic Union, is cutting rates at the same time that Janet Yellen is thinking about raising rates. So you have all these twists and turns and pulling back and forth on the international economies that further adds confusion. So I think my point is that in a world where there's really nothing to rely on in the way of statistics and things, it's a time to be uber cautious. And I'm going to stress this again. If you're an investor, your secured money should sort of be pulled off the table, and I've said that. This time period that we're entering in, this bubble that we're in, can produce very dramatic returns over a very short period of time. There was somebody on this week talking about 38,000 on the Dow. And, I wouldn't automatically poo-poo that, even though we're at the 18,500 level, because as I've said before, markets get crazy when they reach the end. They tend to go vertical. They tend to spike up at the end. So you never know what will happen. But you need to be cautious, and you need to make sure you're building up a good reserve of cash. But this is where we stand now with the Fed not really knowing what to say or what to do. Maybe we'll raise rates, maybe we won't, and all the time the information comes in from the economy very conflicted, because it's very hard to get a handle on where we stand. So I'll ask Rick, and I'll just stop in the middle of what I'm talking about and ask them, can you guys jump in about what you see in your particular? Now, Rick, you're bi-coastal, you're on East and West Coast. Do you guys get the sense that there could be a developing labor shortage at low-end enterprises? And I don't mean low-end if they're not, honest, good jobs, but just that the lower-paid.
I can tell you, I went to 2 Tractor Supply stores in about 45 minutes from each other, and they both had help wanted signs. There was one day the one guy goes, "Hey, you want to work here?" I was doing a dog run, and
yeah, it's that honest face you have, Rick.
And there was another place, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a restaurant, and there was a help wanted sign. But yeah, I've been seeing help wanted signs quite a bit. So yeah, it's right in line with what you're saying, Rosie.
How about you? Yeah, yeah, good. I was going to ask TR to jump in. I just was curious.
Well, I think as far as your lower end paid jobs, there probably is a demand, and I've been seeing stories where there is a big demand for the. And I don't mean low. Yeah, I don't mean this to classify anybody as lower end or anything. I'm just saying your minimum wage to $10 an hour, $12 an hour jobs, there probably is a big demand for that because so many people have dropped out of the workforce and found other ways to get an income, whether it's disability, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. And there's a demand for technical jobs. There's a big demand for technical jobs, like what I do. There's a big vacuum there, and but at the same time, overall, jobs in general are not out there, but just specialized jobs is what I see is more out there than just your general labor jobs.
Yeah, I kind of call it a barbell job picture where you have a gigantic circle on one end with a lot of low end stuff, and then you have, like you said, technical skills at the other end of the barbell, and also a lot of white collar stuff has been wiped out. So you really are missing a lot of that middle section that used to be that I kind of sense has kind of been pushed out of the economy. But I was just curious about that because labor conditions are key for recovery, because you're not going to spend money unless you're not going to spend money freely unless you have a job. So I see a lot of $8.50 and $9 an hour jobs, but I don't see a lot of $35,000, $50,000 a year jobs and stuff like that. One might consider lower end managerial and middle level managerial stuff. So it's interesting, but I kind of sense that the other thing I want to be aware of is that we're coming into a seasonally dangerous time for markets in general, which is always the month of September tends to be, sometimes it can be even worse than October's. October's get a lot of attention because traditionally they have the big spectacular drops that occur in 1929, 1937, 1997, etc., 2008. They tend to happen this time of year because the market kind of looks ahead at Christmas and maybe doesn't like what it sees, and things may be slowing down. So you have to be very cautious right now that we're also at a very high level. We're almost at new all-time highs on a daily basis. So enjoy the ride, but keep your seatbelt tight. And that's what
tray in the upright position.
Yeah, tray in an upright position and assume the position. Right there. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. We haven't talked about China in a long time. Probably it's been 3 or 4 months since we talked about China. And they're not getting a lot of news lately, but they've gone a long way to sort of righting their ship, which got temporarily imbalanced with credit demand and all that. So I really think that China represents good value on a very broad investment front, a very diversified Class A share front. If you're looking for something just broad to diversify away from the U.S. and from Europe, that seems to be a good place to. Still seems like good value, a good stable yuan. No news is good news, as we say in economics. If you don't hear anything from a country, they're probably doing pretty darn good. Banking has been interesting. Banking has been perking up a little bit too here. Some of these stocks like Bank of America that I talked about, though, maybe 6 or 8 months ago, 12, 13, they're pushed up to $16 and climbing now. So it could be that things are going to get better in banking, but I suspect what's going to happen is the Fed is going to start loosening some of the rules and requirements for borrowing money, especially when it comes to housing, which would really be throwing fuel on the fire at this point with these ridiculously low interest rates. It'll be the other door that opens to let a ton of people into this market, perhaps again the worst time to get in. But I can almost see Obama saying, the election's coming. He's got Janet Yellen sitting there. The election's coming. Let's open up the spigots a little more. Let's start lowering the bar for what kind of credit you need to get a loan. And otherwise, I think that what we have could easily stall out this fall, and that's my big concern. So that pretty much wraps up what I see in there. Otherwise, it's rather dull right now in the market still.
Well, don't you think, I think even the last time you was on here, we talked about this a little bit. The market, not that I'm a financial expert, but the market right now just doesn't make any freaking sense. And they kind of base how good our economy is going on by the market. And it's like there's turmoil all over the world. Nothing's going good. The job market's bad. The unemployment's bad. The deficit's bad. Yet the market's just like thriving. It's like, is it not a bold-faced reminder of how BS the market is right now?
Well, it's BS at certain points in times, but at times it's got to be perfectly sensible with the economy. And you can thank the Fed for these weird distortions that we have right now. You said the market doesn't make sense. That was our theme we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago when I was on here, that things just don't make sense in the market, but they don't have to in the short to intermediate term in markets. You can go way overboard on the upside. You can go way overboard in panic on the downside. The stories in 1929 during the crash when there was no bids for U.S. Steel or something, and some shoe shine boy on the floor of the exchange said, "I'll buy it for $2," and then it sold. A stock that in the morning had been $122, had no bids, and this kid, that's panic. That's just outright panic. But the thing is, the Fed has created the conditions of this bubble, TR, precisely because they've shut savers out of things like CDs. We have a very abnormal structure when it comes to savings. How much incentive do you have to go into the bank and open up a 0.5% savings account and put it into a certificate of deposit? Nothing. It's totally unattractive to you, and it's set up that way because banks have nothing to do with your money. What are they going to do with it? All they can do is sit on it and begin to charge negative interest rates. So what does it force people to do, especially people with capital? They have to seek out other avenues of return on their money. And they look at a McDonald's at $120 this year. It's still it's over a 3% yield. In other words, if you buy McDonald's today, you'll get a CD that's 3%, although it's not, obviously the price is going to fluctuate. But this is why money is driven into the market, not because the economy wants it in there and the opportunities are great. It's dragged in here because of the incentives that the Federal Reserve has caused to go into pushing money out of other areas and going into stocks that have dividends. So what we're doing is pushing these yields down, and we're pumping up this market. All for the chasing this return out there, and that's kind of a dangerous sort of thing to do. That's why things don't make sense, TR, and that's why they could get much worse in terms of being nonsensical before it starts to make sense again.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just because I'm a prepper. It's not that I'm begging for the collapse or anything. It's just that looking at everything, it just points to we keep pushing off the maybe not the collapse, but a definitely big downfall, because everything seems to be just so false, so propped up with little reason. I understand what you're saying, and that makes sense. People are just trying anything because they can't make any money in the bank.
Yep.
The banks can't make any money. The banks are damn near in default all over the world. And
Linda Francine asked about bonds. They're very dangerous too right now. I wouldn't have any money at all in long-term being defined as bonds of more than a 10-year maturity if you're in a pension fund or something like that, or a 401k, and one of those options is long-term government bonds. I'd be getting out of them while the getting's good. You've made every penny of money that you can make for them, and your risk on the downside is phenomenal. If this turkey comes apart, which it will, you will see a spike in rates, and you will see you'll see all kinds of problems here. The thing is, the Fed just doesn't know what to do at this point. They painted themselves into a corner, and they don't know how to get things chugging along anymore. So all they do is they keep hoping and praying and wishing and praying that tomorrow will be a better day. Because the worst scenario would be right now that things do come apart, TR, because that will be the ultimate end of socialist manipulation in financial markets that started with FDR in 1933 and the New Deal. The beginning of government should be doing things to make the economy better, because up until that time, with Herbert Hoover, there wasn't that feeling the government should have anything to do with the economic workings of the nation. This will be the event coming up that makes people forever realize that the government can't create prosperity, and the financial reserve can't create prosperity. Our own efforts, our own productivity, our own innovations, and our own creativity are the only things that can create prosperity, in my opinion.
Yeah, just from a layman's point of view, just somebody that's don't know that much about the markets and stuff like that, and trying to figure it out. I can't put a handle on it. It just don't make sense to me. At one time, decades ago, it seemed to be a good thing. You know, people could make money on it. You could put in a 401k and on average make money, but what limited experience I've had with like 401ks, even trying to be conservative. The one time I did have a 401k, I lost money on it. I mean, I was better off.
I'm kind of chuckling here because you have these masters of economics with PhDs and stuff that are sitting at the Federal Reserve being paid, I don't know, $500,000 a piece or whatever, these Federal Reserve governors that sit there and decide economic policy. And I bet that you know more today about what's going on in the economy than they do. They should hire you because it wouldn't do any worse right now, and it could do a hell of a lot better. This is what I'm saying. They sit up in a very insulated environment where they're spoon-fed information in a certain way, and then they want to, of course, put the spin on that. But I would say it's nothing to feel bad about, like you don't know what's going on, because none of us really knows what's going on, because we're really in uncharted water where socialism has run amok here in financial markets, and we're discovering that just having low interest rates is not, it's a Potemkin village. Having low interest rates is not the solution, and Japan proved that for over 25 years now.
Yeah, I seen the article, and I can't say that I read the entire article, but you've mentioned this before. Japan was actually considering doing the helicopter, the helicopter, plan where you just throw money back at the people and hopefully they stimulate the economy. I mean, they were actually, I'm not saying that they're not still going to do it, but that was actually in the article about that was something being talked about.
That's the helicopter Ben Bernanke school of last-ditch efforts in economics to get things going again. But you know, the sad reality is, let's imagine this helicopter goes overhead in downtown Tokyo and drops maybe $100 billion on the city. What are most people going to do? Well, I can tell you, probably 75% of the people know that they live in shitty times, so they're going to take their fucking money and put it in their mattress or put it in the bank. Okay, so there goes 75% of the money. The other, probably of the 25% that's remaining, probably 20% will filter into China to buy more Chinese-made shit to come over, TVs and widgets to come back into Japan. And so you're not going to, again, unless people see something that makes sense on their radar, and I don't think money flying out of a helicopter is ever going to make sense on most people's radar, except it's the end days maybe when money starts falling out of the sky. You know, it doesn't even matter in that, taken to that extreme. You're still not going to put money to work because you can't change people's psychology. You can't say, well, just because I put a couple $1,000s in your pocket, start to feel good about things now. Go out and start to spend it. And let's touchy-feely and kumbaya, and everybody will, you know, will all recover. It's still not going to get the wheels of the factories turning and everything else. It's going to, you know, it's just going to put more liquidity in a system that's already choking on it. Too much cash now.
Well, I think like in the 2008, 2007, when they did the, you know, the banks were crying, oh, we're about to fail, blah, blah, blah. Our government just wrote them checks for billions or trillions of dollars or whatever it was. 710 billion, was that what it was? I think it ended up being more than that. I have to say, if their government's going to do that, it would still be better if it went into my pocket than a banker's pocket. Because all they did, they just turned around and like, oh yeah, we're about to fail, give us this money, or, you know, the world's going to end. And they took that money and they started buying up other banks. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You said you were about to fail. You needed this to survive. And you turned around, gave out millions in bonuses, bought these other banks. I mean, it was just a free pass just to, you know, spend money. It wasn't to save your company.
No, this is another case where the Federal Reserve, the strong arm of the Federal Reserve, came in during that Lehman Brothers and all that collapse of 2008. You're running the Bank of America. You're considered a strong, relatively strong institution. You have never really been huge. You know, Bank of America was big in corporate finance and stuff. They were never really into mortgage origination and stuff like that. But you know what? They got called in at the height of the panic because they were perceived as to be a strong, relatively strong institution. And Alan Greenspan walked up to the chairman of Bank of America, I can't remember his name right now, it'll come back to me, and said, you know what, you're going to, this goddamn countrywide credit, this is a fucking keg of dynamite that just blew up in this country. And you know what, you guys are going to take over countrywide, and you're going to buy them out, and you're going to take on their obligations. Well, the rest is history. For the next 7 years, Bank of America has been in nothing but a tailspin trying to recover from that kind of stuff. I don't believe in a million years that Bank of America would have made that purchase back in 2008, 2009 if the government hadn't have stuck the thumb on their chest and said, you're going to buy that goddamn institution and you're going to run it, you're going to work off the losses, because your capital base is the largest in America, you and Citibank, you're going to start sucking down some of this bad stuff that's it's coming along. And this is why we have things so screwed up right now, because the incentives aren't there. As much as we all like FDIC insurance, and it's great that our savings are insured, remember that was only it only came about in 1935 as a result of all the banking collapses, but it made bankers feel like they really didn't have to worry about taking risk anymore because, well, the government would be behind them to bail them out if they made bad loans. It took out that risk factor that made for good lending. It's like when Greenspan, when Clinton told Greenspan, write more loans, get more people into houses in 1996, 97. And, you know, Greenspan's like, well, who in the hell is going to buy up all these mortgages you want these banks to write? Oh, you know, just let the Lehman Brothers, the Solomon Brothers, let them just make a secondary market and start sucking that stuff in and using it for pension funds and long-term holdings. So a lot of these problems we have today were solely created by the government's intervention, which began in 1933 and is probably reaching a peak right now. And when this thing comes apart, people's faith in government will drop to virtually zero, and especially the faith in a Federal Reserve to manage an economy, just in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the manipulation of the market, you just have to do a little bit of research, a little bit of education on yourself, and you begin to realize how much is manipulated by the government, by the Federal Reserve, which isn't a government, entity, which I didn't know a few years ago. I mean, so I'm learning a lot, in the past 10 years, trying to wrap my head around what the hell's going on. And
we don't have normal laws of supply and demand. People out there on the side chat, Tommy Boy, and they're talking about cereal boxes, they're shrinking, and bags of sugar went from 5 pounds to 4 pounds. There's no more half gallons of ice cream. It's, you can thank the government again for that, for the floating standard of what is a dollar worth. Who in the hell knows? Let's see, yesterday we had 10 trillion less US dollars floating around the system, so gee, maybe they're less valuable now because there's so damn many of them. Well, no wonder we get this very subtle way to reduce our purchasing power and once again equalize to take our supposedly all this great purchasing power and neutralize it and make it worth less and less and less and less. There's just no end to it. So the question is, TR and Rick, is at what point does the government say, what next? What do you want us to do next? Okay, fire up the helicopters. Here we go. That's that's almost the logical next point. I mean, Europe's gone deeper into negative interest rates. Japan's there. It's just it's almost a tragedy where we stand today with what's going on, and it's almost like what I call we're in the prayer mode. Just drop to your knees and say a prayer that things get right here, because that's about it.
And give me your thoughts on this, Rosie. So one of my buddy that picks me up from the airport, him and I, we got about, we screw off because I come in a day early. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get a bunch of stuff at the Bass Pro Shop. And I'm like, well, how are you going to pay for that? He's all on a credit card. I'm like, well, here's what I would do. I would go to the store and buy a bunch of Bass Pro Shop gift cards, so it goes on your credit, so you get points, right? And then you get points again. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
use your credit cards to your advantage. Like, if you're going to go buy something anyways, because sometimes you'll end up with more. You'll get you get more bang for your buck if your card's doesn't give you very much, or whatever the case is.
Well, I think that's a great idea, Rick, because you get the double barrel effect of having a positive on the credit. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. My thing is that they're not telling you, is credit deteriorating or is credit improving in this country. You go along and you think, wow, my home, according to Zillow, my home jumped $13,000 last month. Then you open a paper the next day, or you get on Bloomberg News or Dow Jones Wire Service, and it tells you that default rates on car loans and truck loans are skyrocketing. It's like, man, there's no, it's so lumpy. It's so lumpy. The data is so screwed up out there because the government has never come up with a way to measure a socialist kind of economy like they've engineered right now. They're just, they'll tell you we don't have the budget to do new statistical methods and new ways of doing things. It's just, it's a very strange time we live in here with so many cross currents. Some people are doing great. Some people are living in their cars. I mean, it's I've never seen a time when like today.
Yeah, I mean, being the pessimist, I think it's on the verge of collapse worldwide. I mean, seriously. I mean, looking at the entire world, it's like. But at the same time, I don't know. It may go on 5 years. It may go on 10 years. I don't know. But all I know is what I see, what I can gather. It's not sustainable the way we're going right now. It has to fail.
Well,
I hope I'm wrong.
as you point out, we add to the deficit every month. We don't run anywhere near a balanced budget. And I'll remind you guys, we hit bottom in 2008 here, supposedly. This market, when it cratered down and hit its lows, that was supposed to be the down point of the economy, and we still haven't generated anything like a net surplus in Treasury. So we just keep expanding that hole. And TR, you've mentioned before, and I've mentioned before, that Armageddon, when rates start to rise, that hole in that debt service on the federal budget, that line item is just going to explode, because you're going to have so much debt that was out there at 1% and 2% that's going to be rolling over 4 or 5%. You can imagine the explosive impact that's going to have on the budget. Now, some people will argue, well, if interest rates are that high, it means the economy is doing better. Well, it may or may not. It may be so bad that nobody's willing to lend anymore. So to attract the money, rates got to go higher. It's it's just weird.
Well, also, and I know we've talked about this already. Looking at the records with our debt so high right now, there's another underlying thing that keeps the Fed from raising the interest rates, and that is our debt. Because our debt is so high now, if the interest rates go up just a little bit, we already can't pay back what we owe. And if it goes up, it would automatically almost puts us in default right off the bat. So here's this cycle, this conundrum that we're in. The Feds can't really raise interest rates, so because it would put us in default. And then if they don't raise interest rates, it's causing a problem with investments and all this other stuff. I mean, we are up against a wall.
We are, and it's just the reality of when the population realizes the emperor has no clothes. Now, this is why gold and silver kind of lurk in the background, because they're kind of the truth tellers. They'll take a back seat and sit there calmly, and they don't get a lot of attention when a good piece of data comes along, and they'll kind of back off a little bit, and they'll maybe drop down, silver will drop down 50 cents, but it's lurking. It's hanging there like gold at 1,300 something, because people know that there's something going on. And I'll say it's interesting, they doubled the supply of money in this nation, and actually tripled it, and yet you can see why the price of gold and silver tripled to stay along with that. So I tell you again, everybody out there, in my opinion, this is why the metals are such good preservers of value, is because they reflect the realities of what the true purchasing power of a dollar is, and not the stuff the Fed's, not the stuff the Treasury's printing up on 3 ships in Washington, D.C.
Well, it kind of reflects how the economy is doing as a whole, and when you see the fluctuations of gold and silver going up, you can tell that things are kind of getting tight when it comes to the economy getting closer to collapsing.
That's what we used to call the BOB, the barometer of bullshit, with the price of gold, because as much as you think they could internationally manipulate that, there's too many big countries that don't care for the other big countries, and they have no interest in helping someone else get the better of them. So it's a great thing. It's a great barometer. It's like your storm warning of what's coming there. So it's very valuable to me. I also watch copper, and copper used to be $4 or $5 a pound, and that's down around $2 and something now. There's a lot of weakness underlying some things here, and it's very, very disconcerting to me, and to me in a sense that I know finance, TR, and you in a sense that it just doesn't make sense on the face of it what you're seeing right now in the world, which I think is interesting. We come to the same conclusion from two totally different sort of backgrounds here.
Yeah, you have a lot more education into the finances than me, and that's why I always appreciate you coming on here and giving us your 2 cents. Because your 2 cents is worth more than $1 of my common sense.
Not necessarily, because you're a barometer, because you haven't had your head filled with all that crap that mine has been filled in finance, that lower interest rates and you get a boom, raise them and you slow, you step on the brake pedal. You haven't been subjected to a lot of that Keynesian economics BS and some of the other stimulus programs and all that. You just know sensibly whether something's correct or not, and that's a good thing to have. That's a good barometer to have.
Well, I've read stories on, you were talking about gold and silver, how they are a good barometer. And I've seen some stories where they broke some stuff down, and they were like, in whatever year, like years and years ago, decades and decades ago, an ounce of silver would, buy you a nice suit. You could go to town, buy a meal, blah, 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 blah. And this was when it was like $35 a ounce or whatever, and that's what the going rate was. And they compared it to now, where it would take, like you said, it was like $1,400 an ounce now. It would buy you a nice suit. You could go to town, get a good meal, blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally, it still is worth the same amount,
We talked
with
about
inflation and all that. I mean, an ounce of gold would buy you the same buying power as an ounce of gold now.
Exactly. This is what I call the dime through time. And 1920s, when you would pay 20 cents for a gallon of gasoline, you'd pull up and put 2 silver dimes or $1 and get 5 gallons of gas. You had purchasing power. You go up today, and to get 5 gallons of gas, you need $13, $14 at today's money. But you could still go up with those. You could take those 2 silver dimes today, walk into a coin shop, and get about $1.25 for each one of them. Come out of there with $2.60, and go buy that gallon of gas today. It's perfectly kept its purchasing power, and everybody should think on that, because that's pretty amazing. I can't think of anything else that kept value. Real estate keeps value, and real things keep value, but silver and gold have the advantage of being very small and portable, whereas you can't take your land and other things with you. But this is the perfect example, that dime through time, that silver dime. 10 cents would buy a loaf of bread back then. That same dime will buy almost $1.99 loaf of bread today at the store. So it's just perfectly kept its value. That's why I think it's a good thing to have as part of anybody's portfolio.
Yeah, and Pops Quest made a comment. Yeah, you won't go rich investing in silver and gold, but you won't go broke.
That's right.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's not that you're going to make money buying silver and gold. You just won't ever lose money.
Yeah, that's the relative value thing that we discuss. You know, if other people get wiped out in a stock market collapse or something, and you still have your capital, well, your standard of living almost rises by default now because, well, so many people lost so much money that the stores are impacted, sales take place, prices are cut, deflation comes in, purchasing power, money goes further. Now, in that environment, woo, your purchasing power is even higher because you kept all your money. You were smarter. You were the evolutionary case of the Darwinian person that managed to get through and make the right decisions, and that has its reward. That's correct. Maintaining your capital, not making money, but just being able to maintain your capital in a meaningful way is a really great thing. Good night, Yankee.
Night, Yankee Ford. Bobby. Damn it, Bobby.
Hope you feel better.
Yeah, the old adage of the old couple putting all their money under their mattress, with the way how volatile the market is and how the inflation rate is, burying all that money under your mattress really puts you at a disadvantage because you're actually losing money by doing that because your money is losing value every year. And I'm not telling everybody to invest all their money in gold and silver. I'm just saying that it's not a bad option. I mean, if
it's
you
certainly
have
not overpriced. You know, it's certainly a value proposition compared to other things in the world today. So, you know, it's unfortunate things like the stock market is the more challenging the business environment becomes, which it is now. We're in a very challenging business environment. The greater the risks are, and the greater the risks are, the greater the chance of a wipeout here. So, and unfortunately, that perverse law of economics that the higher something goes, the more demand it creates. You know, if everybody's thinking, oh, there's a gold rush going on, and man, I got to get in on it. Well, they weren't there at the beginning of it, but they'll be there at the end of it, and they'll take the hit as a result of that. And the people that can just basically maintain their purchasing power will do fine. Yeah, JB said, yeah, people always too late to buy and too late to sell.
I was just saying, if you're going to put money under your mattress, do it in silver or gold. At least you won't lose money.
At least if your house burns
your
down, you can pick up the glob.
I mean, you could imagine somebody, say, in the 40s that put back $10,000, and then, well, I don't know. I don't know how to set this scenario up. I'm just saying, if you put back $10,000 2 decades ago, that was a lot of money. Today, it's nothing. You know, you can buy a beater car for $10,000. You know.
Yeah, but if you would put that $10,000 into face value United States quarters, dimes, and half dollars at that time, that would be worth $130,000 today. So, you know, that's,
Exactly.
yeah, but it's not so much that that's going up in value. It's the illusion. Your U.S. dollar's gone down in value, and your grocery store purchases prove that, with the declining sizes of sugar and ice creams and detergents, everything. And that's the illusion that things are okay. It's not. It's your purchasing power being stripped away, because I don't want to say this, because in economic terms they would say because you're dumb enough to keep holding something that's depreciating in value. Nobody out there is dumb, but you know the point I'm making is that you're competing with hundreds of billions of new dollars being printed all the time and introduced into the economy, and that makes what you have worth less and less and less and less.
Well, kind of, we get this idea of write-offs, where you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'll have it as a write-off or whatever the case is, but in the end, you're only getting 10% of that money. You're not saving anything. You know what I mean? If you have the ability to pay something off and not pay interest, and thinking that you're going to gain in value on, and tell me if I'm right, Rosie, um, you're gonna save money by having a write-off. You're really not. So let's say you spend 100 grand on something, whatever it is, a house or whatever the case is, and then your interest. Let's say you spend $6,000 on interest, just to make it a simple, easy number. You're not saving 6 grand because by the time you do your write-off, you only save maybe $600. But if you would have paid it off, you wouldn't have paid any interest, and you probably would have saved the $6,000.
Exactly. Plus, that's a case of taxation policy steering people's economic decisions, and that's another case of government putting an artificial steering wheel on something to move it. That's great. It has a good feel-good factor when you go to do your taxes and you get your statement of your interest that was paid in your property tax, and maybe you have enough to take that to exceed the standard deduction. But again, that's tax policy steering money in an economy. Is that a good thing? Probably not. Sometimes it's some good incentives, but you're right, Rick. I mean, not having that debt, not paying that, because if you have a 6% mortgage over 30 years, you're almost paying 250% the value of the house anyway. By the time you've made all of your payments, the house that you bought for $100,000, you've actually paid, $250,000 in payments altogether to have that house. Now, would you rather have that in something else, tangible, a piece of land or something that has some potential value, or just piling up debt payments?
Yeah, the whole write-off thing is it's good if you own a business or something like that, for depreciation and all that kind of crap. But
well, it makes sense, right? It makes sense. Depreciation makes sense, but houses don't really make sense because the houses really depreciate. Do they need that tax incentive? I mean, if you buy a engine lathe or something like that, that's a $50,000 piece of capital equipment. It's probably expensed over a 5-year, depreciated over a 5-year period. Well, that makes sense because at the end of 5 years, you just have book value or salvage value for it. So it means you've got to go out and get another one. So in that way, writing that off against your gross sales and things, it makes a lot of sense. But other things just don't make sense. Some policies that are out there.
that's like I was looking to buy a piece of property to set up an actual shooting range on, not a public one, but where I could go and practice, my friends and I or whatever.
Yeah, in California, right, Rick?
No, fuck California.
Thank you.
But then I was like, it'd probably be easier to find a piece of property I could lease, not have to pay for it, not have to pay for all the property tax and all that crap, and then just give the person a certain amount of money every year just to shoot on it.
Yeah.
What Pop said.
Be nice, Pops. I live here.
I know. I'll be there tomorrow. That's the reason why I said it.
Well, I can
it's got its compensating factors to me.
I can just say from a free state that I feel for you, Rosie. The laws of California are just disturbing, to say the least.
They're getting worse too.
Yeah, is somebody from a free state. I feel for your pain is living in California.
Well, it's like that's why we have a union of states, because all states they steer themselves by whichever group is in power, and the Democrats have been in power for a long time here, and it's very difficult to change that. But if you're, this is the interesting thing, there's a lot of people that live within California that like the idea of being more of a socially supportive network and more revenue raising for schools and more projects and more government stuff. It's kind of the way it was when I lived in Hawaii for a year. It was like I would scream about the high taxes in Hawaii, and people would be like, well, you know, so what, brother? You know, you get good school. You know, you happy families, and you know, some people, you know, it doesn't all come down to that. I think the way you do. Myself, I wish the state was much more fiscally conservative and protective of the amendments and things like that. But you get the state you get with the population base that you had. And, you know, we have so many immigrants that just funnel into the Democrat Party as a matter of course that come in from overseas. And then I hate to say it, you have people like Trump that kind of, in a way, turn off newcomers that are able to vote with the very harsh kind of rhetoric. But, you know, don't be fooled. There's a lot of people that really like the way that, you know, like the way the taxes are high and at the level of services and things like that, and Caltrans. But I'm with you guys. I like the feeling of freedom like Rick has. When he gets home, he can take a deep breath. When he gets to Carolina, he can think about, yeah, I'm going to get a shooting range somewhere, UTR, and just having air to breathe and, you know, not horns honking and fucking sirens every 3 minutes.
Yeah, no shit. Did you sign that petition, Rosie, for the Second Amendment?
Yes, I did, of course. Yep.
Good job.
The problem with California, New York, New Jersey, all these countries, not countries, but states, is the Supreme Court failed us. The way the Constitution was set up was, here's a list of regulations that you have to follow. Now, beyond this, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like you were saying, high taxes, whatever else it is. But when you infringe on these rights, we will step in and say, you can't do that. And our federal government has failed us, if nothing else, through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court should have come down on these states that got real restrictive on gun rights that says, no, here's the Second Amendment. You cannot restrict, you cannot, you know, restrict the right to bear arms. And they didn't do that. So our government failed.
We have federal laws. Who in the hell is enforcing them in California? People have woken up to the fact that we don't have a strong ironclad interpretation of the law anymore. It's like some illegal immigrants and stuff and undocumented aliens and things. They're okay now. It's cool. It's a 2015. It's all good. You know, you want to come over, we'll take care of you. That's a federal government failing. We've got on so many cases of things. The drug law is another federal failing. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that the federal government, people have eyes. They see this selective enforcement of laws. And, you know, you've had a federal government that's been encroached on so much by socialism now that those California ideals have sort of been absorbed into the federal government now. And that's why states like South Carolina, traditional states like Texas, they rail against that because they like the way that the constitutional values were upheld for hundreds of years and they were beyond question. The right to bear arms was right up there with freedom of speech and the right of assembly. And now we're starting to question, well, maybe we can start regulating ammunition and do all this backdoor bullshit way of cutting into those amendments. Yes, our Supreme Court has failed us in a lot of ways. Yep.
Well, a lot of that, and I think the states are trying to figure out ways, California in particular, they're just trying to figure out ways to get revenue. You know, it's like taxi ammo, and if you're going to have this, you got to have this safety class that costs you $25, and just all these little ways of nitpicking, picking ways to get money from the people that shoot.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's ways to get money, or they just believe that they're making a better, a safer, in their own convoluted way, that they're making a safer. Because you can imagine sitting around their conference table. I don't think that money, like raising money, is probably the thing it's top of mind when they go into these meetings. They probably pull all these statistics out that, well, we'll probably be safer unintended firearm accidents at the home if we get at least some initial. Somebody can stand before a dealer and show how to check your breech, or how to unload your magazine. I mean, they can put a great spin on that stuff. I don't know if money's first and foremost, but God knows they collect a lot of it for sure. So
yeah, but if they really wanted to protect the people, they would actually go after all the non-legal gun carrying people. Your gangs and your this and your that. Everybody that holds a felony that doesn't legally have the ability to own a firearm.
Smart thinking people have lost respect for the federal government, period, because of the way that they perceive the uneven way that they apply the laws and the Constitution in this country.
Well, like I said, the federal government, or not even the government, the freaking Supreme Court, which is a screwed up system the way they've distorted it, have failed us. They have failed you, Rosie. They have failed you, Rick, when you lived in California. Because all those restrictive laws that they passed in California are unconstitutional. But they're not challenged, they're not brought up, and you have to suffer the consequences of it.
I've already told you I can't get a carry permit here because they already found in court that these people have a right to the permit, and then okay, that's been decided. Then you go to the sheriff or you go to the chief of police and you fill out your application for your concealed carry permit, and guess what? It just sits in the stack of the desk with 7 inches of other forms, and they're just dead. It's just a paperweight.
It's 1.5 years now in Riverside County.
Well, you're not going to get it in Sonoma County, period, because the sheriff and the Santa Rosa City chief of police said we're not issuing concealed carry permits, and we don't care whether we're supposed to by constitutional law or not. We're not doing it.
Yeah, see, and that was ruled in the Ninth Circuit Court.
Yeah, and this is why people lose respect for the institutions that we have, because of the uneven. People make those command decisions that they shouldn't make. They should abide by the law, but they pick and choose what they want to enforce and forget the rest of it. And that's the real failing of this country now, whether it's the drugs, whether it's the border, the culture, not vetting people that are just coming in from overseas, and it's lunacy. And then we wonder why shit's coming unhinged.
Well, once they got rid of open carry in California, they had an obligation to fulfill concealed carry. You know what I mean? If they're going to say, you guys are no longer allowed to open carry, yeah, that's your right. Now we're subjected to county by county application of that. So we have unfairness on a statewide. Some people are happy, some people are pissed off. So it's no way to run a railroad as they used to. What's funny though is those people that think, oh man, everybody running around with a gun. Look at Arizona, look at Texas, look at North Carolina. I mean, I see people riding their motorcycles, walking in the grocery stores.
Yeah, they're fine.
Open carry even, and it's like they think the Wild West is going to happen. You're 10 times safer with a bunch of law-abiding citizens. I mean,
I agree. I want to think twice if I go in to rob a 7-Eleven and I think a Rick or a TR might be in there, and I wheel the wrong way and turn, or I say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden I've got that trained on my face right there, that weapon. I'm going to think damn twice about what I do as opposed to worrying about the odd store clerk that may have a shotgun or a baseball bat behind the. I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, a armed society is a polite society.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and then they post these things, right? it would be 10 safest cities, or the United, it'd be like California's 10 safest cities, and then you're like, all you did was tell all the bad guys to go to those 10 cities because,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's
going to be good hunting.
yeah, good hunting ground. It's like
That's exactly right. It's all, my thought is it gets so big that nobody can even get a handle on it. This genie is so out of the bottle that you don't even know where to begin. Your Supreme Court now is going to get arguably worse if Hillary gets in, and if the Senate changes and the balance shifts. My God, it's going to be like 1930s all over again with the the liberal courts that came in, and I mean it's going to be, boys better get your tickets punched for wherever you're going next. I'll tell you that it's going to be crazy.
Well, if Hillary gets elected and a bunch of really restrictive gun laws go down, I think we may have the second Civil War.
Well, I know nobody's going to collect them. I wouldn't want to go door to door. I mean, that's going to be another law that's not ever going to be enforced if they try to put something like that out. It'll just join another long line of rules that just make it a mockery, because no cop, nobody in his right mind wants to go up to somebody's door in Texas and, I'm here, let's take all your guns now and throw them in the truck there.
I'll be right back. I hear my puppies wanting to go piss.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not wanting that. I don't want a second Civil War, and it won't be the same kind of Civil War. I just think that, the federal government, I mean, they're pushing, trying to restrict our rights, trying to take away our constitutional rights, and they've pushed us way too far already. I mean, we've really actually should have already reacted already. There just hadn't been enough people that's gotten uncomfortable to do anything about it. But if they go really radical, this shit's going to get unhinged.
Well, it'll just be public. It'll just be disobedience in a major way, just like the drugs. Just like, I mean, imagine if you've been waiting in line 4 years from Laos to come in to immigrate this country. You've got your money saved. You've proven that you can support yourself, or family will support you. And all of a sudden, you're getting jumped over and hopscotched and leapfrogged by these Syrian, quote, refugees, unquote. It's just like, what the hell, All right, Rick, safe travels to you. Like, what the hell?
Later, Rick.
Thanks, appreciate it. Have fun. Yeah, I got to get ready for a flight.
Yeah, safe travels. Be safe out there.
Take care, everybody out there. You guys have a good one, and come check out my 2,000 subscriber giveaway. Hopefully, next few months I'll get my 5 that I need, 500.
Well, you need to do another video, because your 2,000 sub video is an hour freaking long.
It is. I had Pop's Quest on there. It was pretty cool. It was
all right.
I'm going to tell you.
All the stuff was in the front, though. You can just watch the first 10 minutes. All right, you guys have a great night.
We'll catch you in syndication there, Rick. Okay.
See you later. Bye.
Shit. Yeah, I like what Atomic Bull said. The Second Amendment has less weight than a driver's license. I don't think a driver's license is a right, correct. I mean, I'm tired of arguing for something that's ensconced in the Constitution. And I mean, it's like, why aren't we up there protesting freedom of speech and right of assembly and all the other values of pursuit of happiness and let's have slaves again. Maybe I'll have some slaves here on the rancho. I mean, what the hell? It's just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the first 10 amendments should be the way the country is run. And what that done is like the federal government said, this is what the line you can't cross. You can pass any law you want as long as it don't interfere with these 10 amendments. Basically, it was like a 10 commandments. But anyway, these 10 amendments. And as long as, I mean, if you wanted to have, you could let a guy marry 10 wives, that was perfectly in your state's rights. It was not against the Constitution. You could do all kind of stuff. But when you start restricting freedom of speech, the right to own a firearm, when you could bear a firearm, it don't say when. It just says you can, the right to bear arms. Period. It don't say conceal.
Shall not be abridged, shall not be tread upon. I mean, that's my. I mean, I agree with you, and I'm thinking, why did we need to have amendments to the Constitution anyway? Because some of the states said, we're not going to agree to a Constitution unless we specifically have these added guarantees put into the Constitution. I think New York was one such state that held out, and thus, what was it? James Monroe had to draft the amendments and help draft the amendments to get the rest of these states. And these are rare things in the world. And I just think that it's a lawyer's world, and they just willy-nilly go after guns. Why don't they go after freedom of speech? Well, maybe they meant this kind of speech, and you can't criticize in this way, and you got to be nice and blah, blah. Maybe that should be under attack. All of these things. As you said, the rights that aren't specifically reserved by the federal government belong to the states. That's correct. That was the whole basis of the Civil War, was states' rights versus federal union.
Yeah. And a little bit change the subject, but not really. These college students on their social justice warrior fucking banner wanting to ban speech of all kind, they freaking kill me. It's like, really? Oh, that's a microaggression. You can't say that. Say what? Trump. Oh, somebody wrote Trump on a sidewalk, so now I need counseling. No, what you need is to shut the fuck up, get your ass, somebody fucking spank you or whatever. Shut the fuck up, get over it. Wuss.
You need a V8, You look like you need a V8, Have a Snickers bar and take the edge off of you a little bit there. Well, this is people with too much time and too much money on their hands that are a product of not having to scrap and get along in life. So everything seems easy to them.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, they don't get the fact that I can say something that offends you, and that's my right, and it's your right to be offended, and you can tell me to fuck off. That's your right. They don't get that. They didn't grow up understanding freedom of speech, I guess. I don't know, or at least I didn't get it. I don't know how to introduce this next thing I want to say. You know how the Black Lives Matter are like blocking the roads nowadays? Not everywhere, but in some places, and like yelling and screaming at people, intimidating them, trying to force their views on other people.
Yep.
I experienced that in the 70s as a child. And it wasn't black people. It was white people. It was a Ku Klux Klan. Back in the 70s, now I live in South Carolina, nothing bad happened, don't get me wrong. But I remember one time, just once, but it still put a scar in my head. They blocked the road. And all they was doing was they blocked the road and handed out pamphlets, and then they would let you go. I was scared to freaking death. I didn't know what was going on. All these people with these hoods on and stuff like that. It terrified me. And looking back at it, I mean, it wasn't that big a deal, but at the same time, looking at it today with a Black Lives Matter, blocking traffic, trying to force their opinions and what they think is going on is no different. It was a act of terrorism because they terrorized me as a child. They terrorized my mom. I mean, I'm not saying that they, physically threatened her or anything, but it scared the shit out of her. Is not That's terrorism. They instilled terror, and that's what Black Lives Matter are doing now. I know I got off the subject
Well,
here, but
no, that was just the local governing board there. The KKK and stuff. The ones that set the tone, the social atmosphere, and things. Well, I was going to school in high school in the 70s when after the riots and Martin Luther King had been shot in a very predominantly black schools. Yeah, I was scared. I was nervous for sure. It was a different interpretation. It was a very militant time. You didn't know if you were going to turn a corner and get your ass kicked or what was going to happen. So you just got along every day, and eventually things calmed down. But yeah, they were pretty hairy.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. I've never really shared that story with anybody, and I've just been. Go ahead, Rosie. I've just been kind of reflecting on that because I've been seeing videos and stuff where Black Lives Matter or blocking roads and stuff, and it brought back the memories of me growing up and seeing the Ku Klux Klan block the roads and forcing their opinion on me. It's one thing if they're on the side of the road, but when they stop traffic and, like forced, you will look at this. It's no different. It is, to me, knowing the true form of terrorism, which is to instill terror, to instill your political beliefs, that is terrorism. And the Black Lives Matter are no different than the Ku Klux Klan when they block traffic and enforced or forced their beliefs on you. So I don't give a shit what you think. Black Lives Matter are terrorists because they done the same thing that happened to me when I was a child back in the 70s. But that's just a little, and it only happened one time, but it still, it was a very, I won't say it scarred me. Maybe I should say it scarred me because I still live with it. I remember it. I'll never forget it. I mean, they didn't really, instill that they were going to hurt us, but it still scared us because they stopped us in the middle of the road and you could not pass without taking a pamphlet. And Black Lives Matter are doing that now. They're not even letting people pass, period. They're not even giving out pamphlets like, look, if you take this, you can pass by. No, they're not doing that. They're just like, no, we're just going to stop traffic and cause a big chaos, so yeah. And if anybody's subscribe to my Facebook page, which is Roger TRprepper. I posted a video about that, and I showed a bunch of people getting run over by during
this bun's for you, America.
There you go.
Yep, TR is our favorite, Hunky. That's right. Yep. But I think selective interpretation, like, if it had happened in LA in the 1970s, they'd sat down on a freeway or something like that, they would have gotten their skulls split open. And there would have been mayhem out on the freeway. They would have opened up that damn freeway and people would have thought twice about going out and doing that stuff. Nowadays, you have to be socially adept and sensitive to handling these situations, which means an over response of police and fire, and all of a sudden everybody's on overtime pay, and it's just sitting around doing nothing and just watching. That's the thing that pisses me off.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've told some people, I shared a little, I mean, it's a quick video, but a quick video on Facebook of where Black Lives Matter were trying to block roads, and cars blew through them like they were, you know, squirrels in the road. They didn't give a shit. They just blew through them, and it was like,
better find another town. To go
yeah, at
to.
the end of it, it was like, think twice before you try to play Frogger in real life or some shit like that.
Yeah. Or yeah, try this on for size in our town. You know, we're on roadkill.
And I got nothing against it. Like,
they wonder why Chinese society moves so smoothly is because try that over there and you get fucking run over. That's it. And they'll just pull the bodies out of the way, and you know, that's it. Gone. Then they'll bill your families for having your dumb sons and daughters out there doing that stupid shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing against protesting. I mean, protesting, you do, I know I'm going to get the word right. You know, grievances against your government, you have the right to protest and stuff like that, but you don't have the right to impair other people of living their life. You don't have a right to, you know, stop somebody.
Yeah, when your rights infringe on my rights, then all of a sudden we've got a fucking problem. That's correct.
Exactly.
That's when we used to have respect in this country, when we would have honorable protest and meaningful protest of just gathering large numbers, like the civil rights meeting in Washington D.C. in 1962 or whatever the hell. You know, I mean, now it's just it's chaos, and you know when the shit hits the fan, you're going to have that Occupy Wall Street everywhere again, like we had in 2010, 2011, and all. It's going to be bad. There's going to be a lot of pissed off people that are impeding your right to get where you need to go.
All right, I'm going to read this right quick since it's so small. Everybody should have a pocket constitution. I mean, this is the entire Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and it's that big. This is all we needed, and they screwed it up. But anyway, the First Amendment, your right to protest. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Doesn't say anything about that you can impede other people living their life. It just says you can protest. You can have a grievance against the government. Don't mean you can stop somebody else and start impeding on their rights.
But I don't think it had to be stated back then, because it was a much more civil and respectful and well-mannered society that they wouldn't think that they had to include until it starts to interfere with somebody else's rights. What you got to do is send a copy of that, send one of them to Ruth Bader Ginsburg up there on the Supreme Court. And, you know, she's one that would like everybody towing the old socialist Marxist Lenin line there. They're the ones that need a briefing. It's everything. You know, we used to have a lot of respect for the Supreme Court in this nation because, well, sometimes men in history rose up and made courageous decisions on the Supreme Court, maybe things that they weren't their own personal beliefs, but they felt like the law was written in such a way that they were empowered to uphold that law as it was written and to try to bring it a little bit into modern times, but to just say, oh, hell no, and put your own slant on that and your own political agenda on it, you know, a lot of respect has been lost for the Supreme Court now. Every time it splits 5-4 and all that, it just shows that people are so hidebound in their thinking that we don't have a middle ground anymore. We have the same thing in Congress. We have, when I was growing up, Congress used to get along pretty good. I mean, you know, you would meet, you talk, you'd iron out things and come to the best you could. Now they don't talk at all across the aisles, and it's worrisome, and this is why people have lost respect for Congress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just an old country boy, you know, and like I said, that is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You know, I mean, before all the amendments.
With all the amendments, yeah.
Yeah, with all the amendments.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you not understand English? As bad as my accent is, as bad as my slur or slang or whatever, I understand black and white what, you know, words mean. How did you screw this up so much that you allowed all this to go on? It doesn't make any sense. Like I said, I mean, the gun rights in California. I mean, the Second Amendment in this book is only 3 lines long. 3 lines. That's it. You know, the right to bear arms. Let's see, a regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. How more cut and dry can you be? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means magazine limits. As far as I'm concerned, they can't even tell me that I can't own a full automatic machine gun. Because if you tell me I can't, which they do, you infringed on my Second Amendment rights. It don't say that I can't own anything. It just says my right to keep and bear arms cannot be infringed. Period.
Yep. And a well-regulated militia was also deemed important at that time exactly because it fought the tyranny of the British. And they wanted people to be able to take up their arms when they saw something that was not the way that they wanted it to be and was unconstitutional, and it was becoming a tyranny. They put that in there specifically so people could bear arms and once again have a revolution, I believe, if they needed to turn over tyranny.
Well, exactly. I mean, you're talking about a government that was set up that just actually took over a government. Not took over, but they kicked a government out of their country. They rose up against a country, kicked them out of their country, you know, went to war with them, kicked them out, and then set up a government. The whole basis of the Constitution was to restrict the government on what they could and couldn't do.
Exactly. It was a check and balance on ever having that come up again and having to scramble around and have freedom emerge again, and because your freedom is being restricted every day.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, and I know
So
our kids today,
maybe preppers are the next evolution of constitutionalists.
Yeah. That's why we're made to be an enemy, you know. Because we understand, we respect history and understand what went on. I have a thorough understanding of what happened that led up to the revolution. And trust me, what led up to the revolution isn't a tenth of the shit that we're putting up with today. Our founding fathers would have picked up arms decades ago over the bullshit that we're going through now. Our government is more intrusive in our life than the British were back in the 1700s. And we went to war over it then. Now we're like, well, you know, we'll just, yeah, that little intrusion of my privacy, ain't that big a deal. We'll just let that go. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy is correct. So, when you identify the Supreme Court as a big part of the problem, they're going to be an even bigger part of the focus going forward. They're going to draw a lot of attention because if that court shifts, which it probably will, in a really meaningful way, the next president's going to make quite a few appointments. Then you really got the case. You really got the appeals coming up to be heard that immediately quote right the wrongs that have been done over the years.
Yeah, I said it in my last chat. Whether or not you like Trump or not, I mean, if you have any constitutional values whatsoever, you can hate them, you cannot like them or whatever, but the next steps in the evolution of America, is Trump the best guy for the job? Absolutely not. But he is a much better candidate than Clinton. Because if Hillary gets in power, you can go ahead and write off the United States. The United States will collapse. It may collapse any fucking way. But if you put Hillary in there, it will collapse. We may end up in civil war. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be good. Like I said, Trump may not be the best candidate, but I think he's the best choice we have to have a hope to redirect the country.
Well, Hillary's going to have a lot of pissed off constituencies out there, I'll tell you that, and hers will be a miserably unhappy presidency if she gets in. I can guarantee you that, because they've gotten worse over time. I've seen every president that come through get less and less and less, and under more scrutiny and more divisiveness in this country. And I think that she'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back in this. I think great sections of the country will just rise up and flip her the bird, and that'll be it. Just tell her, go fuck yourself and come and take my guns and good luck.
Yeah, I just think it just be bad times coming. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not like super Trump fan. I just think I'm a super non-Hillary fan.
Yeah,
I mean, I followed her career.
I think whoever goes in next will be, whether it's Trump or Hillary, was going to have a miserable presidency. I just think all the stars are aligned. Everything economically has been done to the greatest extent it can to keep this turkey flying. And, too many feathers are going to come off the wings, and that'll be it. So I'm just saying it's liable to happen in the next 2 years. So,
oh yeah, I definitely think the next president will face the burden of the financial downfall. Will it be a total financial collapse? I don't know, but we do know without a doubt there's no way the next 5 years that because there's still not even 5 years. We'll say 4.5 years. There's no way in the next 4.5 years that they won't be an economic turn down, no matter who gets in power. But what the problem is with Hillary is what she will do. Like you said, the Supreme Court justices, what other crap she tries to throw down. I mean, she's flat out said she wants to outlaw weapons, period. And I hate to be a one issue person, but on that issue, I have to make a stand. The last 2 elections, I voted Libertarian. This will be the first time I vote Republican since whatever, whatever 3 elections was ago. I think I voted for Bush Jr. the first time, but the second time, and from then on out, I didn't vote Republican. But this time, I think is very important. Whether you like Trump or not, it don't matter. He's the lesser of 2 evils, and in this instance, he is the evil that he's up against is more overwhelming than any candidate I've been seen in my lifetime.
Well, I think it'll be a question of who votes on election day. I think that'll be the thing. It's Thursday, September, so we're basically it's a 2-month, and shit starts getting real interesting at the 60-day mark, and elections is where a lot of shit shifts and changes. So a lot of crap comes out, all the high-powered dirt gets dug and dished out, so it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I say Frank making some comments out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Trump's a Ron Paul. He's not going to go after the Fed and things like that. But it's not so much what he will do, it's what he won't do. And that's the problem I see with Hillary. It's not so much that I think Trump would, correct everything. It's just that I'm afraid Hillary will fuck up everything.
Yeah, I agree. Hillary will step on so many fucking toes that she will just gain a core of haters in very important positions that will just block anything that she wants to do. Trump, on the other hand, probably over promises and under delivers. That'll be his risk. That, well, things don't really change in the economy, and just because you're rich doesn't mean you're going to make us all rich. And okay, so, but his support will work off more slowly over time. But Hillary's will be almost an immediate boom. She'll hit the wall. She gets in there. The Supreme Court justices announce their retirements that they want to do, and there we are, right in the deep end of the pool with Supreme Court nominations, and then you immediately polarize the country.
Yeah, exactly. And if they don't retire, they'll end up on the Clinton dead list like the rest of them.
Yeah. Well,
oh, Supreme Court Justice.
I question her health. It doesn't look real. She doesn't look real cherry, her health right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that.
Yeah, I think she's got some real health challenges. And it would be a crime if she was staged managed to win an election just to be a fucking puppet in the White House.
Well, I think that's the problem with Trump. That's why so many Republicans are against him, because they don't. I really think that they don't think that he will be a puppet, because most presidents for decades have been a puppet. And I think they are afraid that Trump won't be a puppet. And I think that's why so many Republicans are against him. Your McCains and Romneys and all these other puppets.
Well,
they're afraid that, hey, he may actually think he's the president and can make some decisions. So they're against him.
Well, it's also, he has a very non-traditional, in-your-face way of campaigning that people aren't used to seeing in this country. And I think if he ran the typical bullshit, smarmy, ass-kissing campaign that most people have run over the last 50 years, he'd probably be in a virtual dead heat with Hillary right now. But again, he sticks to his basic way that he is, much to his credit. I mean, he's not my favorite person. I would have preferred Scott Walker or, Kasich or somebody like that. But at least he doesn't change and shape-shift himself depending where he's speaking or what he's doing out there. So I give him credit for that.
Yeah. And I think he's got more support than national media gives him. I mean, once you get out of the big cities, boom, it's all Trump, 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 Trump.
You know, well, that's what I said. We got this polarization of the electoral college that you know, basically pits. We'll just go down at Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts, probably Pennsylvania, Maryland, Illinois, California, Michigan. I mean, you pick up 10 key states, and you've picked up probably 40% of the electoral votes out there. So it leaves a tough field for a Republican. You almost have to run the table perfectly to get that done. Because I think Trump could very well win the popular vote and potentially lose the electoral vote.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. But everything I've seen, I really think Trump can win it. And maybe that's a little bit of a hope. But you know, either way, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm very objective because I'm not crazy about either of them, and I just think she's got an edge right now but that can be muted because Trump has been very careful with his cash. He's been very careful with the way he manages his campaign. All of his bad news is out, in my opinion. There isn't really any more. You know, that was already unleashed. I don't think there's any more. You know, what they used to call the Saturday night specials that would come out just before the Sunday talk shows. But Hillary, I think there's more stuff to come out, and I think she's most at risk of losing her whatever perceived national poll lead she has right now.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how dumbed down, how manipulated the public is.
I dread the thought of just seeing pantsuits in the White House every fucking day. That's my biggest fear, is the lack of taste in. We went from Jackie O to Hillary Oh no. You know, that's a really gruesome thought. It's no wonder Bill spends so much time away and speaking. Oh boy. You know,
all right.
it's fun.
Yeah, for no other reason, we should have a pretty first woman, not a old first man.
I agree. You know, y'all think T-girls are bad. I'll tell you, Hillary for 4 years. Well, good morning. How are you? It's no wonder Bill ain't in the White House, you know. Hillary, yeah. Oh boy.
All right. Well, it's been close.
Hillary said, Bill, I'm giving you the best birthday present you ever had in your life. And Bill said, oh man, great. When you moving out? All right. Has Hillary ever done porn? God. The drive-in movie, The Swamp Thing. Oh my God! Trump's meeting with the Mexican press on Wednesday. That'll be a staged fuck up. I can sense that coming.
Yeah. All right. I know it's not quite been 2 hours, but we're close to it.
Been a good chat.
Anything interesting going on your channel? We'll just change subjects.
Well, you know, if you like to see, you know, I already bought and restored a 74 GMC. I moved that on. I took all the profit, and it was enough to buy this camper van. So if you all enjoy seeing restoration videos and getting mechanical, electrical systems running on a 26-year-old rig, check it out. Check out my new Class B camper van, Coachman Class B camper van, 1988. You might enjoy watching that. Got a lot of metal detecting videos come up, the usual cheesecake stuff once in a while, but it's a lot of fun. And join me. We go on trips, Friday night foodies adventures. We do a lot of stuff. And we try to keep it entertaining, not too controversial. If you like just the purely economics thing, you have the Rosie Murphy channel once a week or once every other week, a little economic blurb to kind of keep you on top. Just my opinion for what it's worth. Just to keep in touch. It's something I've been doing for a year and a half, and some people have really started to enjoy that. So that's it, TR. Always good, fun stuff happening.
Well, thank you as always for being on here, Rosie. I appreciate your input and your opinions on things. And I do enjoy the economic forecast on the Rosie Murphy show. I seen you had it posted. I hadn't watched it yet, your last one, but I will go back and watch it. Sometimes I have to play catch up. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming by. I think it was a really good chat. I know we concentrated on economics probably for the most part, but being the volatile times we're in, I think they're very important to talk about. So it was a real plus to have Rosie on here and getting her take on this. And I do appreciate it. And thanks everybody for being out there. And I know y'all carry on your own conversations out there in the comment section, and that's cool too. I try to input when I can, but when it's just a couple of us, it's hard for me to type and pay attention to the comments. I mean, to the conversation as well. So I didn't type in as much as I normally do, but I do appreciate everybody being out there.
You got some smart people on that side chat.
Yeah. I think we have a really good community, and I think it's a tribute to, I don't know how to say this without saying it wrong, but Rosie, I hope you appreciate the fact that you're hanging out with a lot of rednecks, and they accepted you for who you are, and appreciate and actually they get pissed off when you're not here.
Well, I'm gonna turn it around on you and say almost all these people came from your chat. Okay, these are the coolest people on the people. You know, my chats often devolve to craziness and lunacy and a lot of fun and stuff. You got cerebral people that actually have a big stake in America here, and they care about it too, and that's an important thing. That's a tribute to the people that you brought over, not me, you. And the fact that they open up and listen to opinions and things shows me that they're true Americans in the sense of equal opportunity and liberty and pursuit of happiness for all. And believe me, on YouTube, that's a rare commodity, especially when you happen to be trans. So don't think that that's not appreciated, because your side chat is a joy to sit here and converse with. And you don't think I know I'm blessed? Absolutely.
Well, I feel we're all blessed, and being part of this community, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate the side chat. I appreciate you being here, Rosie. And I hate to bring that up, but I just, I don't know. I just thought I would mention.
1 year and it's still going strong. So.
Yep, absolutely. And anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and close this out. And thanks everybody. TRprepper jumped in at the last moment there, and Drew, appreciate it. But anyway, great chat. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rick, is your sixth cover, who had to jump out earlier. And thank you, everybody out there in the comments. You just don't know how much I appreciate y'all coming in and commenting. being part of the conversation. I do appreciate it, and Rosie does as well. So, see you later.